Hello, you beautiful people. So, if you've ever wondered what ayahuasca is, or maybe you know, but you're curious what in the world happens during ayahuasca, is it right for you? I am here today to talk about what ayahuasca is, how I came to find it, and you can as well, what the process is like beforehand, preparing for it, what my personal experience was like, and a little bit about what yours could be like. And then after ayahuasca, the integration phase. So what is ayahuasca? Ayahuasca is a plant medicine that is also known by the name Aya. She is actually looked at as a goddess. A lot of plants and plant medicine are looked as to having their own spirit energy, their own goddess energy. And so ayahuasca is known as this female goddess Aya. And a lot of people will actually have experiences with Aya when they're taking ayahuasca. They'll talk to her, they'll see her. Some people will think of her as a snake, but usually she's this really beautiful, intelligent, guiding presence that helps to guide you through the realizations in the plant medicine. She has nothing to be afraid of. She is a confident, beautiful, powerful goddess. For me, in my experience, I did not meet Aya. I'm a little sad, but it's possible that somebody that you might. And so the actual plant medicine comes from, it's two plants mixed together. One is the same plant that creates DMT, which if you don't know what DMT is hallucinogenic. It is a type of medicine that usually lasts about 10 minutes, and it puts you into having all these visuals. And usually they happen so fast and they're so like out of this world that it's really hard to process, and you don't even know what really happened, and you didn't really learn anything because there was all these just flashes. You had no time to process the things that you were seeing. And so ayahuasca is part that. And then the other part of it is another plant from the good old goddess Mother Nature that helps ayahuasca to stay in your stomach and prolong the effect over multiple hours. It could be anywhere from 6 to 8 hours. And so you actually have time to integrate these lessons and understand what's happening. And so that is ayahuasca, the spiritual version, the physical version, and then kind of the mental version of ayahuasca. And what people do it for is clarity, is a deep understanding of self, is learning about your past lives, learning about who you are, learning about your childhood, your traumas, like a relationship with somebody that maybe you never understood what happened. In ayahuasca, you might have like an aha moment where you understand it finally. You might see past lives. You might meet a goddess who tells you things. The whole process is very much about self-discovery, self-evolution, spiritual evolution. Everybody's experience with ayahuasca is totally different, but usually people come out feeling like, whoa, I just learned so much about myself, my spirit, my life, my other lives that I need time to integrate. So how I came to find ayahuasca, that is a little bit of a story, because I deeply, deeply suggest that you actually let ayahuasca find you. If you feel like it's starting to call to you or you're interested in it, you can put feelers out, ask around, do some research, but she will come to you and she will find you when you are meant to have her. Because I remember when I was really starting to get deep into my spiritual practice, I was like, yeah, I'm ready for ayahuasca. Like, I want to evolve. Let's go. And so I was looking for her and I couldn't find her. It was like a year and it wasn't happening. And so I do remember in that time, though, an experience of other plant medicines, which I can talk about in another video, came into my reality, Bufo. And I went and did Bufo in Colombia with some friends, with a trusted shaman in a beautiful small village. A beautiful experience. However, I remember going into it like, yeah, same energy. Like, yeah, I'm so ready for plant medicine to show me things that I can't see and evolve me. And I if you don't know Bufo is known to be like, it like explodes your ego kind of. And so I was in the experience and I was like feeling my ego like lifting out of me and wanting to like burst and like free me in a way of my egoic desires. And I remember my ego, like me being my egoic self, turning around and like gripping the ground and being like, no, like I'm not actually ready. Like I'm over here thinking I'm so ready, but in this moment, I am actually not ready. And so I'm really glad that I kept her distance from me when I wasn't actually ready. And so then from that experience, everything was fine and beautiful, and it doesn't last long, and we move on and continuing on our spiritual journey and integrating the lessons of Bufo and things like that. And I don't even know, like 8 months after that, I'm living in Ecuador and I'm getting this like Reiki massage from this woman, this very intuitive woman, and she's just like, I think you need this. And she hands me this card of this shaman in Peru that does ayahuasca ceremonies. And she was like, I don't know why, but I think you need this. Like, I think it's time for you. And she had sat with this shaman in ayahuasca many times. She was an older woman, like in her 70s. And I remember just being like, like now from my recent learnings in life, I'm like, I don't know if I'm ready for ayahuasca. Like almost scared. But of course, when ayahuasca comes to you, you are ready. And so I knew that. I knew that mentally, I knew that spiritually, but of course I was still scared. But ironically, I was actually going to Peru next. I was leaving Ecuador in 2 weeks and had no plans for Peru, but just thought it looked amazing. And so I was gonna go off and explore Peru with my friend that was currently in Ecuador with me. And so I was aware that when this woman gave me a shamanic ayahuasca journey or information in Peru, and I'm about to go to Peru, like, okay, mentally and spiritually, I know that when ayahuasca finds you, it's meant to be. But I was still scared, right? And so I go home and I show my friend that's going to Peru with me, and I'm like, this happened to me. Like, I don't know how I feel about it. And she was like, we're doing it. And in full transparency, this woman is incredible, but I did not expect her to be like down for ayahuasca, which silly to have expectations of anyone in life in general, just flow, but at least that's my view. But this is another reminder of that. But so she is like, yes, we're doing it. Of course we're doing it. Like it's calling to you. And so this friend of mine is very brave and inspirational, and she's like, we're doing it. Like, and she wanted to do it too. She's like, I'm ready. The universe is telling you you're ready. Let's go. And I was still just so nervous. I like had to sit with it and meditate on it for a couple of days, which also I highly recommend. There's no need to rush into these things. There's no need to force yourself to be ready for them if you aren't sure that you are. But in full transparency, I was nervous right up until the moment that we took the medicine. And I think it was because of my Bufo experience, but I'm so glad I did. Like, it was perfect. And so I sat with this for a couple of days, and it's 2 weeks before the ceremony. Like, I was going to Peru in 2 weeks. The ceremony was in 2 weeks. It was like perfect timing. And another friend that we're staying with, she was like, I'll do it too. And we're like, wow. So I have this group of these two beautiful and powerful women to do it with me. Again, everything's perfect, but I'm so nervous. But let's talk a little bit about preparation for it. This kind of continues my story as well. And so in order to prep for ayahuasca, there's a couple things. You can do a bunch of research online. You'll find a bunch of different information. You could do no preparation whatsoever and show up and it would all be fine. But it is suggested to cleanse your diet 2 weeks, 1 week, a month before even. So when I do these types of things, I really try to do it like as big as possible. So if I would have planned for this ahead of time, I would have done a whole month fast from caffeine, which I am a total coffee addict, meat, dairy products, any processed food, any like really regulating your sleep, coming away from distractions, screens, absorbing content, because those things can show up in your ayahuasca journey and kind of distract you or take some of you have to like go through the layers of distraction that you've absorbed in your life in order to get to the deeper layers of what's going on with you and your emotions and your soul and your timeline in life. And so the less that you're absorbing that beforehand, a little bit easier it is to just get into that in your ceremony. And so ironically, this ceremony is going to happen and take place in 2 weeks. And I had randomly, 2 weeks previous to discovering this ceremony, just stopped drinking coffee. I went cold turkey on coffee. I was also living in Ecuador in a tiny village where the only grocery store was this fresh produce out of this man's truck that he came and sold Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So I was eating super clean, already vegetarian. I had cut out coffee for like the one and only time in my entire life, 2 weeks previous to this, so that I was off of coffee for a month total before Aya. And that was even like another serendipitous like symbol and sign from the universe for me to be like, okay, it's time. Like, how crazy. I would have never quit coffee. It would have been so hard to me if I had to plan this a month ahead to quit coffee. And I've already done it in the perfect amount of time before Aya. And so I'm continuing to eat clean and in the preparation phase and continuing to try to consume minimal distractions and stay off caffeine, no smoking, no alcohol. Again, could be maximum a month, 2 weeks, 1 week. And then there is a fasting period, like right before you do ayahuasca. If you start in the evening, some people say don't eat all day. Some people say don't eat dinner the night before. I would really feel into your body and your intuition and what feels right for you. What we did is we ate lunch the day before, like had a big lunch, but like really like delicious vegetables and fruits and like natural foods, non-processed. Even like we stayed away from the processed vegan and vegetarian things, breads, tofu, all those things. Just ate super clean, drank lots of water, and then didn't eat until after our ceremony. So we fasted for 24 hours beforehand. And what that does is that's, again, helping you to clear out your system now on a physical level. So when you take the medicine, it integrates quicker and easier, and you're able to get into the lessons that you're trying to learn in that ceremony. And so that is kind of like what you'll find if you research how to prepare for ayahuasca. Another thing that I would really highly suggest is to really pay attention to what you're doing your time beforehand. Maybe like the 24 hours before you go into your ceremony, like quiet yourself, really find peace, meditation. My friends and I, we had to travel into this tiny town called Pisac in Peru that morning. And so we put our bags down and then we went and found this spot by the river and journaled. We just like quietly laid blankets and we all kind of nervous, me super nervous, just like did our own thing. Like most of us journaling and meditating just for the entire time before we went into ceremony. And I would really recommend that, whether it's to set intentions for your ceremony, whether it's to process the fear or emotions that are coming up, or excitement or joy for your ceremony. Me, what I actually did, which just intuitively came to me in that moment, and again, follow your own intuition, but this was something that was really, I'm really glad I did, was I had like hours to journal, and I decided to kind of make a timeline of my entire life. And before in life, as I was processing my childhood and teens and adulthood and all these things, everything felt like these separate chunks, these like separate traumas or difficult points or exciting points that I went through. And in that journaling session, I kind of bullet pointed like important moments in my life. And I realized how instead of them being separate sections, they were actually one continuous timeline. And I was able to at first like release all of these intense things that happened to me by bullet pointing them, like, oh, this trauma happened then, this horrible thing happened then, this rejection happened then, this then, and then I kind of like filled in a little bit more. And then I saw how every part of my life led to the next thing. And this is something that's talked a lot about in personal and spiritual development, that you can't be free and release yourself from the weight that you carry if you don't recognize, or if I don't, speaking in the first person, if I don't recognize that my whole past was meant for me, that my whole past made me who I am today, brought me to this point of self-discovery, of empowerment, of love and confidence and joy. And so, but this was an exercise that really just helped me wrap my mind around my entire life and how all of these things that I went through and did were all meant to be, and they all led to the next point and the next evolution and the next step that I made. And it was this beautiful aha that, again, I just randomly intuitively felt the desire to do. And so it's not that you need to do that before ayahuasca, it's that follow your intuition. If something's calling to you and it seems like maybe it's a daunting task or it feels like a lot, just breathe, sit down and flow. Make the space and the time, don't schedule anything beforehand, to let yourself be flowing so that you don't go into the ceremony carrying anything extra. Then maybe some nerves, and curiosity, hopefully. And so let's talk about the experience, what happens in a ceremony, what my personal experience was, which can also give you some insight as to what your experience could be like. A lot of them are set up pretty similar, some are kind of different. So the way that I found, again, my ceremony was, a woman gave me a card that had a website on it, and I booked it ahead of time online, and that gave me a bunch of information of what it was going to be like, and I will link that temple in the description below. But really, again, you're going to want it to find you, and when it finds you, you would want to book and reserve it ahead of time, and then they'll give you information usually of what you can expect. But again, it'll probably be similar to this, and so I will tell you my story. And so me and my two friends, we arrive at this temple, and it's a big round temple, and we go inside and we have to set up our spots. And so there's about 15 people there for the ceremony. Some of them was their first time, but most of them, they had done it before. You can do ayahuasca as many times as you would like. It's kind of known to get like more intense each time because it's going deeper and deeper into your unknown, your subconscious, for you to learn about yourself. And so meeting a couple of the people, most of us are just quiet and peaceful and just setting ourselves up for a ceremony. And some ceremonies would have less people, more people. You can find whatever feels good to you. And so we had to, because our ceremony was in the evening, it started at like 5 p.m. and it went until late at night, we had to set up like mats. And also you'd probably just do this anyways. Some ceremonies are inside in temples, some are outside around a bonfire. I'm sure there's other options as well. And so ours is inside a temple. We get these mats and we set them up in a big circle, and we get blankets and pillows. We have all of our supplies. We have a bucket and tissues, toilet paper, anything that we feel like we could need, socks, to keep us cozy for our time being. And I was blessed to have a friend on each side of me. And then the beautiful shaman comes in, and she has a team of other shamans with her. It was like 4 people, I believe. And so she's opening this space. She does an opening ceremony. She's speaking in English, and she's explaining like what's going to happen in the process, how she's there if we need any assistance, how her shamanic team is going to be playing music for us on our journey throughout. And so kind of what she explains is about the medicine, where they harvested it from, who made it, the intentions as they're making it. She explains that everyone will take a first cup together because you drink it. It's a drink. And if you decide at any point that you want more, you are allowed to go up and sit in front of her, and she will pour you another glass. And so they also explain that if at any point anybody needs assistance or guidance during the ceremony, they can, call out a specific word or just call out whatever they're remembering to do in that moment, because you might be in a different place. And they will come and they will assist you. That's why there's also extra people. So some can play music and some can assist and guide you if you need anything. So it's a very safe space. And so she opens the ceremony and they're playing music and they're cleansing everybody with different smudging, which is like smoke and Palo Santo and sage and different things to set the intention of the space, cleanse everyone's energy before they're taking the medicine. And then one by one, we come up and we drink a glass of the medicine with the shaman. And the shaman and her team are also on ayahuasca. They take a smaller dosage, but it usually helps them to get into the energy of Aya and flow the ceremony. And I can only imagine how many times they've done it. But so I go up, I drink my ayahuasca, and kind of what happens for most people, and especially specifically for me in the journey, is that I remember at first it was pure visuals. I just went into a total visual experience. And then I came out and I had to purge. I had to physically purge, which I'll speak a little bit more to that. And then the third phase was kind of like all of these realizations. I was like, whoa, bam, 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 having all of these beautiful learnings. And so to speak to the first phase, the visuals. The first phase, I drink it, and in about 15 minutes, I kind of slowly get pulled into be completely consumed with hallucinations, with visuals, which everybody is. Everybody is in their safe space. They completely turn off all the lights, so it's pitch black, so nobody can see you. You can't see anybody. Nobody's judging each other. You got yourself nice and comfy before in your safe blankets and your cocoon and your intentions, and you're grounded in your meditation. And so I kind of blasted off in visuals. And how the shaman explained this to us is what's actually happening there is you are purging all of the distractions that I was talking about earlier, all of the visuals that you have absorbed throughout your life from TV and computers and cell phones, all of that is carried in your subconscious and carried with you, or at least an impression of it. And so I'm starting to see these patterns, which if you look up ayahuasca patterns or things like this, you'll see it's actually a thing. A lot of people stitch these different types of patterns. And in the patterns, certain things start to kind of come in and out of them. And you can see people with pans and tapestries that have these patterns because it's very specific to ayahuasca. And so I'm seeing these patterns, these colorful, it's all white with these colorful patterns. And different things are coming in and out of the patterns. I remember seeing a tree morph out of the patterns and back in, and a bicycle morph out of the patterns and back in. And this is kind of happening. And how I feel about it is part of me is just so whoa, in another world that I'm just observing. The other part of me was there was one moment where I was a little bit wow, this is a little intense. But most of it, I'm just so distracted and observing everything. And it kind of seems nonsensical. It's just random things coming in and out. And I don't even think that lasted that long. I would say that maybe lasted 10, 15 minutes. And what pulled me out of it was the feeling that I needed to physically purge. And so here is the other part of ayahuasca. What is happening is that you're purging this mental stuff, you're purging physical stuff, and you're coming into all this awareness of yourself. And it's all the energies that you've attached to yourself your whole life. And so not only do those manifest in visuals, but they can manifest in physical energy. If you carry a trauma or emotions with you, you are literally like putting weight, physical weight on your body. You're stuffing things down, and your cells and your body stores this like thick energy from your entire life in your being. And so the way that our body can try to release that is through a lot of different things: yawns, sneezes, puke, pooping, peeing, all the things. So anything can be happening, drooling. And so some people need to go to the bathroom and have to pee or poo, and they know the way. It's very close. It's very easy. They're in there. They're doing their thing. Everyone knows. It's chill. It's dark. No one's seeing you. Everybody's so in their own journey that they're not paying attention to you. Also, what the bucket is for next to you that I described earlier is for the puking. If you need to puke, because a lot of people are puking, and you don't want to keep going up and go to the bathroom, you can puke in the bucket. In the tissue, like for me, my eyes were watering. I was like, had a snot, and I was puking a lot. I remember coming out of the visuals from this intense feeling of having to throw up. And I remember not liking that part. I remember puking and just being like, why did I do this to myself? But that I also over very quickly. Like I puked a couple times, I chilled, I had to blow my nose a couple times. I'm starting to become more consciously aware of like, oh yeah, I'm in an ayahuasca ceremony. I'm on ayahuasca, totally cool. The point of coming out of the visuals to puking was the worst part of ayahuasca, but that is like a split second and then it's done. And so then as my body starts to like level out, I am just having the most incredible, beautiful realizations of life, like wild things. Like, I'm just going to be fully honest with you guys here. So I start by seeing past lives. I'm like looking through the eyes of a past life self. And I am a jazz singer in New Orleans in like I don't even know, early 1900s. And it's just red. I'm in like a red dress and there's red walls and we're just dancing and laughing. And I felt the way she felt. I smelled her smells. I heard the noises. And I knew instantly, oh, this is a past life. And so I'm experiencing that. I also kind of had this experience of like going into like a Mayan life. And I was like this like stone sculptured place, and there was like this tribal music, and I just had this awareness that I was again in a past life, seeing a much smaller glimpse this time, but I understood like this is another life. And so then I kind of start to come more into this life, and I'm starting to have all of these realizations about my family. I'm like, oh yeah, my mom and I have had many lives together, and they were actually really challenging lives where we were stuck in loops of like really traumatic experiences together, where we had to keep going through this karmic wheel until we learned the lesson, and then we learned it, but like we're still having karmic patterns together. And so now we're in this life together, and there were like things that happened early in my childhood where she almost got sucked back in and pulled back into like the same loop, like super crazy. And I'm like, as an adult, like spiritually developing and understanding, and I just came to this realization that my mom and I had all these past lives together, and that her soul was calling for my help, calling for me to help her wake up from the like tunnel vision of humanity sometimes. And my mom knows all of this. At this point, it wasn't something I was originally able to say to her. It took years of me continuing my spiritual practice, and then her becoming curious on her own, and then her creating her own spiritual practice, and then us being able to have these open, beautiful conversations and do all this healing. And now, just recently, I was able to be like, yeah, actually, I talked to your soul when I was on ayahuasca, learned that we had all these past lives, and she like told me, like, was like cried out for my help, like, hey, I need your help. I'm still stuck in this karmic loop. I need your help to get out. That was incredible. That was an incredible conversation. But I remember in the moment in ayahuasca having this realization, I was like, no, like, how do I do that? Like, the thing about ayahuasca is it's so incredible. It really changed my life for the better and gave me all of this information that I was just so thirsty for. But ayahuasca is not the end of the journey. Like the integration, like everything that you learn, it's like you learn all this crap and now you have to go bring it into reality in your life. And so ayahuasca is not actually the hard part. The hard part is then you can't go back to sleep. As you're now awake, you have all these realizations and you're so aware of them, and you have to go live the rest of your life with these realizations. And usually the work that you have to do is amazing and so rewarding, but also you need a little bit of bravery. It's a little scary sometimes. So I had the realization with my mom. I had the realization with my brother. I'm very close with my brother. I already was aware that we had other past lives together. I had the realization that he was one day going to thank me for all of the ways that I have showed up for him. And I didn't even realize at that point that, like, because he's much younger than me, I didn't even realize at that point that I didn't, like, I was always like a little worried, like, am I, like, I want to just support him and let him live his own life. I also want to be here for him. Like, am I doing too much? Like, is he, like, should I just, like, let him live his life or what? And so was a little unsure of that. And I had this, like, kind of future realization that, like, his soul, it's almost like his soul tells you that this is what's going to happen in the future. It's not like I saw the future. It was that, like, our souls signed up for this life together and they knew it was going to happen. And his soul was like, don't worry, I'm going to thank you in the future for everything. Even if I can't thank you now, like, keep going. And then I had this realization with my dad that it was my first life that I've ever had with my dad. And that we were at different experiences and different points in our evolution and karmic cycle, and to, like, forgive my dad. My dad is an amazing man, but every parent makes mistakes, every child has traumas. And so it was this realization that my dad's soul was actually super youthful and, like, so loving and just wanted to be loved and give love. And this was our first life together. And so we were still kind of getting used to each other, and there were mistakes that were made, but, like, it was just such a loving, supportive energy. And that I just needed to, like, let go of any anger I was carrying and forgive him and just be understanding that it's both of our first experiences together. Lighting switch. My magic. Sorry, no, I just needed to open the windows. It was getting dark. But, and so, yeah, I'm having all these experiences and realizations of my current relationships in this life. And then my favorite moment in ayahuasca is I remember sitting there and I'm, like, under the blanket because I'm being weird. I'm on plant medicine. And I'm, like, and again, no one can see you. I'm under the blanket and I'm all huddled up and I've got, like, boogers dripping down my face. And I remember just being, like, laughing at myself and being like, oh yeah, I was enlightened in a past life. Ha, of course. It took me years to integrate that bit of information. I had a lot of worthiness issues, like, no, I couldn't be worthy of that. Like, of course, like, everyone, like, would wish to be enlightened, not me, like, blah, 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 blah. But the thing that I love so much about looking back on that moment was that it was so comical to me. It was so comically obvious. You're so connected with your soul, which your soul is this complex being that is aware of all of its experiences. And I was so connected with it that it was like a comic giggle, a comical just laugh, cosmic giggle of just, oh yeah, duh. Like, and I still remember the feeling of just, like, laughing at myself, like, how silly you are. Like, come on, you don't remember? Like, sorry, I'm just having a moment because it was a moment. And so that is pretty much the gist of my ayahuasca journey. I started to like feel that I was coming down and that I was like the access and the connection with my soul. It was like kind of giving me these answers was fading away. And so I went to the shaman, I drank another cup. I had some more visuals and I puked some more and then I fell asleep. I was just so exhausted that then I slept through my second cup until the morning, until the sunrise, until my friends and I had a taxi arranged to pick us up, to take us back to our hotel. And so, yeah, I wish I could remember what those dreams were, but I can't. And you are doing so much work with the physical purging and the spiritual realizations and the mental purging that you're just exhausted. And so, yeah, my experience was I slept through my second cup. But so now let's talk about the integration phase. So like I said before, the biggest part of ayahuasca almost is the integration phase afterwards, when you have to take all of these realizations and integrate them into your life. You had this identity beforehand, these understandings that now like your mind is blown and you have all these new understandings. And maybe you don't fully understand everything that you learned, but you will. Don't worry. From my experience, you will eventually understand them. And you're kind of just like mind blown and exhausted. And so that was something I didn't expect, was for afterwards to just have like, I needed like my friends and I, we were silent for a whole day. We stayed in the same room together. We didn't even speak for a day. We were like, some were laying in nature, some were napping in the bed, some went and ate like 17 things because we just needed to like journal and sit and meditate and process all of the wild things we had just learned. And so, yeah, that was intense. And so my friends had told me that they, again, had really similar experiences. They were experiencing past lives. They were experiencing their soul telling them things. They were healing from traumas in this life. My one friend told me that she had like this, she met Aya, and it was this voice that was like speaking to her and telling her things. And so everybody's experience is a little bit different. My other friend saw Aya and she was like dancing with Aya. And so everybody's experience is a little bit different, but usually you're getting these like connection to this deeper part of you and the universe and all of these understandings. And so pretty much we spent the whole day in silence, journaling and meditating. And then I remember at night, we were all laying in the grass in the darkness, staring up at the stars, just like having the most beautiful conversations about our lives and our trauma, and just in such a casual way of like because we understood it. We finally could see it all. We could see why it happened. We could see our pain and our shadows, and we could forgive the other people, and it was just a beautiful experience. And integration is more than just a day. That, like the next couple of days, I was journaling a lot and like slowly integrating things, but it honestly, some of the things, like the enlightenment part, has taken me until recently to fully understand, to fully wrap my mind around and accept and understand my soul and its journey, its evolution. And so, and like I said, with my story of my mom, like that just recently came full circle. So knowing those things doesn't mean that you need to put all this pressure on yourself of like, I have to save the world. It's like, keep those things with you. Don't go back to sleep and try to hide them because you can't. But also don't put all this pressure on yourself like there's things to do. They will naturally unfold the way they're meant to. Just like ayahuasca will naturally find you when you're ready. I'm so thankful for ayahuasca. It really did just give me such an understanding, like I can't even explain it. Like it changed my life. It showed me things about my family that has completely changed and healed relationships with my family. It has shown me things about myself and my past life. It has healed relationships with myself. It has showed me things about my soul that has helped me to broaden and widen my whole perspective of the universe and of myself and of souls in general, and to learn about my life path and my purpose, and to step into my worth, and to bring these videos to you and all of it. So I personally had an amazing experience with ayahuasca, but it is all about following your intuition. If ayahuasca is meant for you, she will start to tell you, she will start to come to you through your process of finding her, through your process of going through it and integrating, and there's no pressure needed. It'll all happen the way it's meant to. Just follow your intuition. And if you have any questions, any fears, any worries, any advice that you're seeking, please feel free to comment below, and I will answer as best I can. Feel free to reach out. I'm here for anything you need. And I appreciate you all. Have a beautiful, blessed day.